So, when we react to unfavorable circumstances, like we go into fear or doubt or frustration, I think the natural tendency is to then judge ourselves for having that reaction. And we might even start to fear that because we had a reaction, that means that we're not going to get our desire, or perhaps we're going to bring more unfavorable circumstances into our reality. But I've actually started to use these reactions as an opportunity to remember the truth. So I'll give a couple of examples. And so, in one case, I was carrying this water bottle in a bag with some other stuff, including my phone and my computer. And then all of a sudden, I look down and I see this huge puddle of water leaking out of the bag and leaking all over the floor. And immediately I freaked out. I thought for sure that the water had gotten all over my electronics and had ruined everything. And it turned out not to be a big deal at all. Despite the huge puddle of water that was forming on the floor, it was thankfully only a few little drops of water that had gotten on my phone and computer, and it wasn't enough to do any damage at all. And so that was one case where my initial reaction seemed to indicate that this was this horrible disaster. And then the truth turned out to be that it really wasn't a big deal at all. And so, but really it was reinforcing the larger truth that that appearances are not what they seem. And then another example, I had received some edits back from this AI assistant that I'm working with on the latest draft of my novel. And at first I was very frustrated because I've really been working, with different prompts in order to get consistent results. And on first glance, I noticed that there were some details that were off as far as the plot was concerned. And so, through the distorted lens of my frustration, I then saw the entire round of edits as being very bad and very much like not at all, what I was looking for. And then the next day, when I was feeling much calmer and much more collected, I looked at the draft again and I was actually seeing it through entirely new eyes. And removed from that lens of distortion, I actually saw the beauty in the edits. And I saw, aside from a few little details that, again, that were incorrect or that were errors, it was actually very masterfully done and very beautifully done. And it was only because I was latching onto those small details that I actually distorted the entire picture. And it was just a reminder to me that at any given moment, we're just looking at this tiny frame of infinity. We're looking at infinity through this narrow window. And this is just part of being in this human avatar and having this human experience. And it would be impossible for us to glimpse infinity all at once. There is no window that is that big. And on top of that, it just wouldn't be, we would have no way of really perceiving infinity and having like all of these wonderful experiences that we have. It would be very much like the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it would just be complete chaos. And so it's actually a gift that we only get these little small glimpses at any single moment. But it's only when we start to mistake these glimpses for the big picture that suffering starts to occur. And we fall into thinking that this is all there is. Or it's like the example that Vadim Seelan gives in Reality Transurfing when he talks about the fly landing on the painting. And the fly lands on a dark patch of the painting and assumes that this is the whole picture. And when in fact, this dark patch is just one piece composing this beautiful masterpiece. And so, more and more so each day, I'm learning to see my own life in the same way. And I'm learning to see each moment as really just being one fragment of this much bigger masterpiece. And at the same time, remembering that the screen of awareness remains untouched by all of the forms moving across the screen. And that includes these conditions, and it also includes our thoughts and our feelings, and yes, our reactions as well. The screen of awareness remains untouched by all of it. And it is only when we start to identify with these conditions and we start to identify with our thoughts, our emotions, our reactions, and to think, oh no, I reacted, and so now I've frozen everything in place, or I've ruined everything. Or we just take our memories, our undesirable memories, and we keep dragging them into each moment, that's when we experience suffering. And that's when we experience that either things aren't shifting the way we want them to, or perhaps we're even experiencing the opposite of whatever it is that we want, right? But when we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, and again, we may not actually be able to see the bigger picture because, again, we can't see infinity, but just recognizing that there is a bigger picture and trusting that this is all working out for us, even if we can't, even if it doesn't seem like it at the moment. And anytime that we experience an unfavorable condition, remembering that appearances aren't always what they seem, but then even if we do react to these conditions, either in frustration or anger or fear, even if we have a reaction like that, even that is an opportunity point to come back to the truth. And I see it very much kind of as like waking up from a bad dream. And I actually kind of enjoy having bad dreams for that reason. And obviously, good dreams is the preference, but I kind of enjoy having bad dreams. There's nothing that's more of a relief than experiencing some terrible scenario and then waking up and just realizing that it was all just a dream. And in the same way, we can start to see our entire reality that way, that it's all just a dream. And so why not make it a dream that we enjoy? But even when we get swept up in the illusion, yeah, just remembering, just having some grace with ourselves, really. And I don't even really see it as the ego or whatever, or the subconscious mind is out to get us necessarily, or out to pull us down and drag us back into the illusion, or the old man or whatever is trying to pull us down. I just kind of see it as it's all part of the illusion. And if we went into a movie knowing exactly how the movie was going to end, then it wouldn't be a very interesting movie. And so just recognizing that it's all part of the illusion, having a good laugh, and having some grace with yourself, and recognizing that every moment is a clean slate, and every moment is an opportunity to see the world through the eyes of God, and see the world as the divine perfection that it is. And remember that nothing is ever lost, and that you are never lost either. Even if it seems that way sometimes, you can always find your way back to the center in any given moment. And God is always waiting for you. Your I am awareness is always waiting for you with open arms. And so with that, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.